Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are going to learn about simple, compound and complex sentences. First of all, we'll see what a simple sentence is. Simple sentence. A simple sentence is one that contains one finite verb, that contains one finite verb, a simple sentence is one that contains one finite verb. I have already told you what a finite verb is. We already know this. Finite verb is a verb that shows time. Normally, first form of verb and second form of verb, they are finite verbs. All other forms, for example, past participle form, ing form, present participle form, ing form, or third form, that is normally called third form of verb, or ing form of verb. They are non-finite verbs, and to plus basic form of verb, that means to plus the form of verb that we find in dictionary, or the basic form of verb, that is also called a basic form of verb. It is called infinitive, basic form of verb. Infinitive, there is a basic form of verb. For example, go, to plus go, or to plus do. Forms like this, they are also infinitives. They are infinitives and they are also non-finite verbs. All other forms, for example, first form of verb and second form of verb, they are called finite verbs because they show time. So a simple sentence is one that contains a finite verb. In other words, we can say it has a single independent clause. It has a single independent clause. It has a single independent clause. So here we learn that this simple sentence it has a independent clause. Independent clause is a clause that can make complete sense on its own, that can give complete meaning on its own. It doesn't depend on anything else for its meaning. It gives complete meaning on its own. It can make a sentence. And another clause is dependent clause, which is also called a subordinate clause. It does not give a complete sense of its own, although it does have a finite verb. It has all the elements of a clause that are required to make a clause. It gives complete sense. It gives complete sense, and this independent clause, it gives complete sense. But subordinate clause, it does not give complete sense. Subordinate clause is dependent on for its meaning. Dependent for its meaning on principal clause. Without principal clause, it cannot exist. It cannot exist in a sentence. So it is dependent on principal clause. Therefore, it is called dependent clause or subordinate clause. Whereas independent clause is also known as principal clause or main clause. So this simple sentence, it gives complete sense. So naturally, it must have a finite. It must have a finite verb. And it must be an independent clause. And all clauses, all simple sentences have independent clauses, and all clauses, whether subordinate clauses or whether subordinate clauses are independent clauses or principal clauses, which are also called as principal clauses, all clauses, whether subordinate clauses or principal clauses, that means independent clauses or dependent clauses, all clauses have a finite verb. But an independent clause makes complete sense, whereas the dependent clause or subordinate clause, it does not make a complete sense. We know this. So example can be given of a simple sentence. It contains subject, it contains verb, and it must have object also, and it can have complement that I have already told you. and it can have adverbial, and it can also have conjunction. So these are some features. So a simple sentence can be boys are running. Boys are running. Boys is subject, are is verb, running is verb, are is finite verb, running is non-finite verb. So this is a simple sentence. It has one clause, and this is subject, this is finite verb, this is non-finite verb. So verb and subject are most important parts of elements of a clause or of a sentence. Verb and subject. Sometimes even the subject is implicit, it is hidden, it is not written, it is understood on its own. So for example, come, I will say the sentence come. Today morning, friend was calling me. He said that you have said that come is a sentence, and come is a clause, or come is a sentence, and you have not said that it has subject. I told him that subject is this. Subject is, in some sentence, subject is implicit, it is not written, it is hidden. Implicit means hidden. So he said you should have told it there. I said that yes, I am wrong, I should have told it, but I wanted the students to learn it so that they can call me, they can say where is the subject, if the subject is important element of a clause. So where is the subject? So subject is sometimes implicit. For example, come, I will say come here. So in this sentence, come here, it means you come here. I am telling some person, he is in front of me, you come here. So you is implicit, it is not told, it is understood on its own. So boys are running, boys and girls play. This is another, boys and girls play. This is another sentence, simple sentence. So in this sentence, play is the verb, it is first form of verb, and boys and girls is subject. So this is simple sentence. Another sentence is compound sentence. Compound sentence. Compound sentence is a sentence which has it has two independent clauses joined together by a conjunction the conjunction that joins together two independent clauses is called a coordinate conjunction. So, coming to compound sentence. Compound sentence, it has two independent clauses joined together by a coordinate conjunction. Compound sentence has two independent clauses, and these two clauses are joined together by a conjunction. The conjunction that joins together two independent clauses is called a coordinate conjunction. So, a conjunction that joins together two independent clauses, two principal clauses, two main clauses is called a coordinate conjunction. So, in compound sentence, we can say in other words that compound sentence has two finite verbs. One finite verb in one clause, another finite verb in another clause. And both the clauses are independent. That means they do not depend on one another, on each other for the completion of meaning. They are independent, they can stand on their own, but they are joined together to make a compound sentence. So we can say that two simple sentences can be joined together and they can also be made a compound sentence, because in simple sentence there is one clause which is independent. So two simple sentences can be joined and they can be made one clause. or one simple sentence can be made into two independent clauses also by breaking down a part of the simple sentence, by breaking it down and making it a separate clause, adding subjective to it, adding finite verb to it, and it can become a new clause. I will show an example also in due course of time. For the time being, you remember that compound sentence has two independent clauses. They are joined together by a conjunction, and the conjunction that joins together two principal clauses, two main clauses, two independent clauses is called a coordinate conjunction. For example, and, but, or, nor, neither nor, either or, plain neither, simple neither without nor, either, as well as, etc. These are called coordinate conjunctions. These, all of them, they are within the brackets. They are called coordinate conjunctions. Coordinate conjunctions. Coordinate conjunctions. These are coordinate conjunctions. The conjunctions that I have put in the box, they are coordinate conjunctions. So there is another type of sentence, that is complex sentence. Complex sentence. What happens in a complex sentence? Complex sentence, it is also made of two clauses. It is a sentence made of two clauses. One is independent and the other clause, and the other is dependent or subordinate clause. So complex sentence is also made of two clauses. It is also made of two clauses. Complex sentence, it is made of two clauses. It is a sentence made of two clauses, like compound sentence. Till this they are same, but here there is difference. In compound sentence both the clauses are independent, but in complex sentence one is independent and the other is dependent or subordinate clause. So independent clause, we know it stands on its own, but subordinate clause is a clause which cannot stand on its own, which cannot give complete meaning on its own. It depends on the principal clause, on the main clause, on the independent clause. Independent clause also known as principal clause or main clause. Subordinate clause depends on the independent clause for its complete meaning. So subordinate clause depends on the independent clause or main clause for its completion of meaning. So subordinate clause always starts with a subordinate conjunction. Subordinate clause always starts with a subordinate conjunction. A conjunction, type of conjunction that makes subordinate clause. That starts a subordinate clause, it begins a subordinate clause, is called a subordinate conjunction. So some conjunctions are subordinate conjunctions. We should remember which conjunctions are subordinate. Coordinate we know now, but subordinate conjunctions we should know which conjunctions are subordinate conjunctions and which conjunctions should start a subordinate clause. Now we'll move towards subordinate conjunctions. For subordinate conjunctions, which conjunctions are subordinate? I will write here subordinate conjunctions. Subordinate conjunctions. What are subordinate conjunctions? Subordinate conjunctions, the conjunctions that I write below are subordinate conjunctions. Who, that, which, whose, whom, where, if, unless, when, while, till, until, before. Remember the spelling is of till and until. Till, till, until, until. Before, after, why, as, because, since, so, that, lest, though, although. These conjunctions are subordinate conjunctions. Any clause that starts with these conjunctions is a subordinate clause. I will write a sentence here. We will get wet if it rains. We will get wet if it rains. This is we will get wet. This is main clause, one clause. If is subordinate conjunction, so the clause that will start with if will be subordinate clause, because if is a subordinate conjunction, it starts a subordinate clause. If it rains, this part depends. This, if this happens, then this will happen. So this, if we say only this, if it rains, the meaning will not be clear. It will get clear when we say this, we will get wet. So the meaning of this part of this clause is clarified by this part. So this subordinate clause which starts with if, it depends on this part, we will get wet. There is a principal clause for the composition of this meaning. This subordinate clause depends for the composition of this meaning on this principal clause. So we have to keep this thing in mind. Then we will understand. Otherwise, we will not understand. Otherwise, we will fail to understand it. So if it rains is a subordinate clause because it starts with if. See, if is conjunction, subordinate conjunction, it is subject. Rains is finite verb. Here it is also a finite verb. So we is subject, will is finite verb, get is non-finite verb, because it is basic form of verb is used after modals. So basic form is infinitive form. It is infinitive. It is used after will. So this is non-finite verb, and wet is complement. Wet is complement. It is an adjective. It refers back to the subject. So this is principal clause. This is subordinate clause. If we remove this part, if it rains, if we say only this, if it rains, it doesn't give complete sentence. It is sentence is completed when this part is with it. So this is a subordinate clause, main clause, and this sentence becomes complex sentence. We will write it in other way also. We can bring the subordinate clause here. If it rains, then we have to place a comma. Why? Because we have to separate the main clause from the subordinate clause. Here in the conjunction separators in this part, the conjunction separators the main clause from the subordinate clause will get wet. Then there is conjunction, subordinate conjunction. So the conjunction separates the two clauses. But here the conjunction is at the beginning. If it rains, it cannot be taken here, because if we take it here, then this will become a subordinate clause, and the meaning will not be clear. If it rains, we will get wet. We will get wet. So this part is principal clause, main clause, and this part is this part is subordinate clause. This is subordinate clause here, subordinate clause, and this is main clause from V. From if to rains, if it rains, this is subordinate clause, and we will get wet. This is main clause. If this comma is placed here, if it rains, after it rains, it is comma is there, because here there is no conjunction now which can separate the principal clause from the main clause. So with the help of comma, we separate the principal clause from the main clause. So it must be clear that if we write the subordinate clause at the beginning with the subordinate, which is started by a subordinate conjunction, then main clause can be separated from it by placing a comma. But if we write the main clause first and then the subordinate clause, then we don't need a comma. Comma is wrong then, because the conjunction itself separates the two clauses. Here the clauses are not separated by any conjunction, so we place a comma. So this is about simple, compound, and complex sentences. We have learned all the three. What are the three sentences? We have learned it. Now we have learned also coordinate conjunctions and subordinate conjunctions. Coordinate conjunctions are those conjunctions which join together two main clauses to make a compound sentence, and subordinate conjunctions are those conjunctions which join a main clause and a subordinate clause. So this is all for today. Have a good day. I wish you all the best. Remember these pointers. Tomorrow we will come up with the next video. Till then, Khuda Hafiz, Fi Amanillah.